morning. It's Ginny and Tim from DS Tech in Escanaba, Michigan, and we're here to talk about the latest possible breach.
Yep.
And we learned some things, and we got some news for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to share that. Make sure you go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, dstech.net, and also get your free security assessment, and possibly the Galactic Scan is still free.
I believe so, yes.
I think it's still free. So I'm going to keep saying that until it's gone.
Yep.
Anyway, so what do we got? What happened?
So we're just kind of discussing the latest thing in the security space, the latest vulnerability, I guess you could say. I mean, every day there's a new vulnerability, right? It seems like there's something out there, but this was a pretty major one that happened.
They're always finding some way.
Yeah, they're always,
I mean, that's what they do, right? Yep. And then we find ways to stop them.
Exactly.
Which is, this is a cool story, by the way, because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually was caught kind of before it got completely mass distributed. So like, it was kind of good that kind of was nipped sooner than later. But I guess the way to kind of explain this is most people are familiar with like a zip file, right? You get a zip file, you have multiple files in it and things like that. Well, in the Linux world or in software world, there's this thing called like an XZ file, which is just another compressed, take a bunch of files, compress them and extract some things like that. The thing is that this is used in a lot of Linux systems. So like Red Hat and these Debian, these other systems that are typically used by security researchers and things like that, they use this as built in and it's just automatically updated and downloaded. What had happened is there was a group that basically was targeting the repo for this, or basically where it's, it's constantly maintained. There's lots of programmers working to update it and keep it secure, things like that. There was a
repo is a bunch of
repository. So it's like if you have a software that may use 3 different components, each of those components may be updated by different people that are working on it, programmers and things like that.
So this is a group of
programmers. It's a group of programmers are basically working to update it and maintain it with open source software that's very common. And then people can look at it and kind of decide if there's bad stuff in the code and all the eyes on it. It's kind of how it keeps it secure. Well, this group of threat actors actually, I don't want to say infiltrate, but they worked their way into that, and they starting back in 2022, started nudging and saying, hey, shouldn't we do this quality of life fix? It may make everyone's life easier and all this kind of stuff. And they're kind of like pushing to try to do their own little update, code snippets in there. And they weren't getting a whole lot of traction at first. And eventually, long story short, over the course of a couple of years, from 2022 to 2024, basically over Easter weekend, they finally pushed what they call a malicious code update into this, to where when you download the software, now there's a backdoor into your system that can do everything, because they put a little bit of code in legitimate software and they push their way through it. So, and it's still unraveling now. They're still kind of trying to reverse engineer how this all started, how they got in. And a way I can kind of explain it is like, if you're an artist or any sort of trade that you do, when you're trying to get a new job, typically you're showing your past work to show that you're a good worker.
Portfolio. I couldn't think of the word earlier.
Yes. So you have like a portfolio of like, hey, say if I'm a programmer, I'm like, I made this program, this program, this program. Hey, I want to help you with your program. Here's my portfolio. And can I help you? The thing they're finding with all these threat actors that are kind of nudging these people is their accounts have hardly any portfolio, hardly any history. So it's, now after the fact looking, you can kind of see, these people weren't that active and all this kind of stuff, where they're just kind of like burner accounts that were kind of put in there. So people are unraveling this to see, and it started, looks like back in 2022 when they started kind of, working on this.
So there was some social engineering in there too.
Yep, it was a long play. I mean, they waited 2 years slowly building up to try to get this, because their goal, building the trust, trying to get in there, and then dropping the malicious code snippet. And the ironic thing was, Linux and Microsoft have kind of always been at ends. This originally was found by a Microsoft person who's not even a security researcher. I think he was like a heavy-end network engineer who's trying to use SSH. And he was noticing that the requests were taking a lot longer than normal. And he was like, this is odd. I've never seen this behavior before. And so he started digging into it, and one thing led to the next. And now here we are, where we found the malicious code. We can tell what versions are malicious. So the advice immediately is just to roll back to the version before until they patch it and have the new versions updated. So if you are on version, say 10, go back to version 9 and you're good to go. And then once they have version 11, you can just skip 10 and go to 11 and you're good, because it's already identified by the community. They're ripping it out, stopping it from continuing to spread.
So it didn't
get widespread. There's still some systems that may have it out there. There's a couple, still want to do your due diligence, and we checked all of our clients and stuff like that too, just to make sure, because it is kind of a core component that's built into a lot of different systems. And yeah, your day-to-day drivers might be Windows systems, but maybe your backup is running Linux and underlying the hood, or there's different things that do use Linux in the real world And so people are just obviously checking on that. It's a category 10 in terms of security vulnerability. They go from 0 to 10. Anything above an 8 should be patched yesterday. And so 10 is just like the most severe it could be. Like if you did have this on your system, it's pretty malicious. So thankfully.
So would one of our assessments find that?
That because it's so new, like when you have these security vulnerabilities that are like happening yesterday, the assessments will potentially find that, but typically
it's so new,
it might not. Yeah, like if we
Okay.
did like a scan literally today being the Monday, after or Tuesday after or whatever, and it just happened that weekend, typically your software scans, they're using usually libraries and things like that, and we'll be alerted to it because we're knowing this. And then what we usually do, we'll look at like installed software. It's more of a manual process where we'll look to see where you're at and see if it's vulnerable or not, and then patch. Therefore, that's why they call them like 0 days, right? There's no time that you're kind of responding to this. It's just already out there. It's real quick. So yeah, that's kind of where this is at. It's so new that if you did a scan today, honestly, probably 2 days after the fact, probably be fine. Like if we scanned on Wednesday after Easter, it's probably already updated all the security things like that, but there might be that 1 or 2 day lag time when something comes out.
So in this case, the updates would help.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So in this case, if you updated the latest version, I think the new version's already patched out there because it happened over the weekend and a couple days later. And so realistically, it's already patched out there. But I'm just saying like that immediate 1 or 2 day window after something's found, it is a manual process of, oh crap, let's look at all of our clients. Let's look at everything, make sure nothing's vulnerable and get ahead of it before the tools can catch up. Because tools are great, but they're usually, that 1 or 2 day window after something's freshly discovered, it's not integrated or pushed out to all the tools yet at that point. So
somebody behind the scenes has to program all that.
Exactly, and security is ever moving, and that's why it's never a set it and forget it with security. It's a never-ending journey. You constantly want scans, you constantly want to be up on things, and having a whole team dedicated to it can also help. So I guess where I'm getting with all of this too is if you had some sort of software on your computer, like the advanced EDR software where they have a team that's looking at things like this, you could have downloaded this software package. And what they do that's actually really neat in the industry is it may do things that are outside the bounds of normal activity, and they call it an indicator of compromise. So like if you have a program that the sole job is to extract files, like this program, all it should do is take your zip file and extract it and nothing else. Now, if that program for some reason is trying to reach out to an internet website, and it's like, why are you doing that? And if it's not a website to say do an update, it's like, that seems odd that you're doing that. So that's like an indicator of compromise, and all our security tools will have that. And how it works is if enough indicators of compromise happen, it actually triggers then a real human to then look, intervene, correct the course, revert, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a neat thing with the security software is it can catch things that aren't out there yet, that aren't even officially known because things are behaving in a way that is not normal and typical. And using AI and machine learning, you can be scanning all this stuff on your system at a level that a human could never have looked at the logs or see that correlation.
Kind of like those fancy security cameras that say, oh, this is not normal behavior in this hallway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then it all of a sudden can trigger an alarm or something like that for a human to like review it. It's the same thing with security software. Yep, is we have the security software on your systems that have that, and there's multiple layers you can do. So
what I get out of this is as much as the hackers are working hard to get in.
Yep.
There's a whole slew of other people working to keep them out.
Exactly. It's a constant game of whack-a-mole, right? They'll come out with something new and then they'll come out with a way to fix it, and it's just constantly going back and forth and evolving. So, with the latest tools and things, you're good to go. And that's where, AI and all this machine learning, a lot of people are afraid of it in the future, but at the same time, it's just a tool. It can be used for good or bad. It just depends on the person that's wielding it. And so a lot of people are using those tools for good, to protect your systems, to look for those indicators of compromise, to see something behaving how it shouldn't, and then stop it until someone can investigate and potentially, give it the go-ahead or check.
Well, a brick can be used to build something, or it can be used to harm someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
same thing, hammer or any tool, exactly.
That's what AI is, right? Yeah. It's a tool. Yeah.
Exactly. So
excellent.
So if you could just give that story about, I don't like to scare FUD or whatever, but it's just, I'm a security nerd. It's the latest story that's kind of going around the security space.
And it's kind of a cool story because it was caught before
it hit mass distribution, right? Someone kind of noticed it. I mean, it was distributed a little bit, but it could have been, like, if it would have went a couple more weeks and then all of a sudden everyone's updating with this, it would have been widespread to like millions and millions of devices, and then we'd have a big pain to try to roll back all of that. So, like I said, it's kind of like I said, ironically funny that Microsoft staff actually found this.
Yeah.
But it's that's just for anyway.
It is ironic because Linux and Microsoft keep it if you're a geek, you know what I mean.
But we're in security. We're all in this together. Whether you're a Windows guy, a Linux guy, Mac guy, whatever your
you're
flavor
either on the
is,
bad side or the good side.
we're all in this together. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
All right. Well, make it a great day and check out our website, dstech.net. Sign up for your free assessment and reach out. You know what? Drop your questions, reach out, all that good stuff. Subscribe. And we'll see you next time.